but I'm going to be honest. Like, I put my engineering career on the side. I took a 67% pay cut to do my best to give back to my community. Sometimes my community didn't respect it, didn't care. And when I knew in that moment, watching him come across that field, I thought I was in a movie, one of those moments where you're just like, what's going on right here? And when he said his name was Arturo, and I knew that my heart was still broken that Arturo had died, I didn't know what to say. As a male educator at your school site, it can get lonely. Only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And just think about what this gender gap means for your male students. They experience disproportionate levels of discipline. This is a show for male educators who want to feel more understood by their community and want to create emotionally safe classrooms and schools for the next generation of male students. Welcome to Unmasking with Male Educators. Hey, what's up, folks? Listen, I am reflecting on an episode that was really amazing for me. Carlos Moreno, episode 17. Carlos is the author of Finding Your Leadership Soul. And I'll tell you, there's lots of things that I can tell you about Carlos, but one that I'll never forget is being at an event by the Kauffman Center in Kansas City. And he spoke about some young men that he had the pleasure of being a teacher for, or they were at one of his schools. And as I sat in the audience, I was in the overflow room watching him on a screen because the main room was too packed. He really let his soul on that stage. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh yeah, I got to find a way to say hello to him at the end and thank him, because as he told the story of some of his young men, as he painted the picture of these young men who were navigating life in all the ways that life shows up for our students, he painted the picture of the good and the challenging and even the tragic. And for those of you who know me, you know that education is, I'm passionate about education. Not only about having education, but the journey of my own journey through education. And so for those of you who are new, let me just give you a quick rundown. I was a teacher for 10 years. I was an administrator for 3. The last, since 2016, I've been working on the outside of schools, doing workshops, working with teachers. So for 9 years now. 21 years ago, I started the Ever Forward Club, a program for young men who were struggling in algebra. As a person who loves math, I was shocked at all these kids who not only hated math, even though they had a teacher who cared about them and really loved them and wanted them to do their best. But I knew that there was barriers in the way. It wasn't about me, even though sometimes I made it feel about me. And hearing Carlos tell the story of his journey reminded me those days of teaching. Reminded me of those young men who I knew that if I could just help them to see the greatness in them, if I could help them see how amazing that I thought they were, that hopefully they would borrow some of my belief and then believe in themselves as well. I don't know if you've ever had someone believe in you, or if you ever felt what it's like to not have someone believe in you. I met young men who were smart, brilliant, but failing academically. Now, when I heard Carlos tell that story, the reason it resonated with me so deeply is because I have a lot of stories of young men along this journey of Ever Forward, as a teacher. I have a lot of stories of young women in my class as well. But I'm going to tell you two stories that I think will help to kind of, maybe it won't be 2 stories, maybe it'll be 1, but there's one in particular. And I've been hesitant to share some of the story of the young man. I've shared stories here and there, but really devoid of any connection, because he's no longer here on earth with us. He was killed in Mexico City. And it was a student who I wrote my master's thesis about, because I was so impressed that not only that he was trying really hard, but that he was having these social struggles in the school. And as I think back about that young man, Arturo, I am, my heart is sometimes breaks and my heart is so overjoyed as I look back to pictures of our journey of me being his teacher, him becoming a mentor with the Ever Forward Club, him graduating, him moving to Bolivia to open up his own business, and then that tragic phone call that I got that it was all over. 2018, it was our 24-hour relay challenge at Oakland High School. All right, so we're at the 14th annual 24-hour relay challenge. And we have about 120, 30 students out here walking and running. I want to say it was, let me see, what year was it? It was our what year was it? It was the 14th annual. Okay, that was in 2018. Okay. In 2018, we had the 14th annual 24-hour relay challenge. It was at Oakland Tech, beautiful field, beautiful students, volunteers coming from all over the Bay Area. And there was one moment on the field, as you know, me running this event, but having a lot of volunteers from all over who came out to support. And so I'm getting things ready. It's in the morning, and all of a sudden I see a young man walking across the field. Now, I'll tell you what happened in the moment as I saw this young man walking across the field. I did a double take. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because a young man came walking across the field who reminded me of Arturo, the young man who I mentioned, who Ever Forward was one of our first members of Ever Forward, who I wrote my master's thesis about, like who had invited me to his home, and I did an interview with him and his family. Like he was a part of this journey with us. And by 2018, sadly, I don't remember actually when his passing happened, but I remember that it was still pretty fresh. It was pretty raw. And when I saw this young man walking across the field, I thought it was Arturo. And I was like, and then when he got closer, he was coming from one of the Boys and Girls Club of Vacaville as volunteers. And he came over and I introduced everybody, Susan, who had brought them. And I shook his hand. I said, hey, how you doing? What's your name? And he said, Arturo. Now, this young man doesn't know me. He's only seen me 30 seconds. And I'm like, what'd you say? And he said, Arturo. And literally, as I feel saying his name sometimes causes me just to try and whisper it, that sometimes I don't want to believe is real. Like, this young man was a part of this journey. He was a part of the beginning. He was a part of the first meeting. He was a part of this whole process, and he's still a part of it with me. And when that young man came across the field and told me that was his name, I literally was like kind of just in shock. I was going to be honest. I was in shock, and I was just like, what's going on? But I was trying not to freak him out that I'm having this moment where this young man who I'm thinking about, who had just passed on, I felt like there was a call right there in that moment. Like, I see you. Like, I see you doing the work, Branch. Like, keep doing the work. And I think the deeper connection was that we are celebrating today in honor of Arturo Guevara. And this Arturo right here, he doesn't know how much his presence means to not only me as Ever Forward president and founder, but to the work that we've done in 14 years. That Arturo Guevara was the first one here. And even year 14, we have another Arturo. Hopefully he comes back again and again. And we're so glad you all are here. So turn the camera on yourself now. So this is one of my other brothers. See, here. When you become a teacher, an educator, you can just teach. You can just go in the classroom, put the stuff on the board, make the copies and the dittos, pass out the work, teach the class, send kids home, grade the papers, do the tests. You can do that. You can just be a teacher. But I didn't leave an engineering career to come to a job where you get paid peanuts to just do a perfunctory process of just putting dittos together. That wasn't what happened with me becoming an educator. I trying not to make it about me, so let me try and be careful here. But I'm gonna be honest. Like, I put my engineering career on the side. I took a 67% pay cut to do my best to give back to my community. Sometimes my community didn't respect it, didn't care. And when I knew in that moment, watching him come across that field, I thought I was in a movie, one of those moments where you're just like, what's going on right here? And when he said his name was Arturo, and I knew that my heart was still broken that Arturo had died, I didn't know what to say. And I don't know what you believe in. So your belief system may be different than mine. I believe that there is something bigger out there than me. I believe that there's a God out there, you know? And when that young man told me his name, I couldn't, almost couldn't speak, but I was also trying to like, not knowing that, you know, I've never met this person before. So he doesn't know me. He doesn't know that I'm having this moment right now where I'm like, and I believe if I'm right, that we had, oh my God, you know, even more so. So one of our donors, Miles, had given us a donation, and we were providing a scholarship in honor of Arturo. Wow, I just put the connection together right there. We have our title sponsors, but right now I want to talk about Miles Coward, who actually made a donation in memory of, come in close, made a donation in memory of Arturo Guevara, who's one of our original Ever Forward Club members, and we're going to be kicking off the Brotherhood Beyond Borders Scholarship. And so today I get here and I get to meet some of the. So I'll show you when I put this together. I'll show you a picture of the banner we made it, and it says, presenting sponsor was Miles. In memory of Arturo Guevara, Brotherhood Beyond Borders Scholarship. And when that young man came over and told me his name was Arturo, I was like, can I make a video with you real quick? Like something in me was just like, and I will never forget it. I have the video here in front of me. And me like trying to like be calm and be cool and not be too like weird, like that I'm having this moment of just like connection. Now, when I talk about being an educator and being a teacher, I didn't become a teacher just to do this job. I came because something called me to this work. And the Ever Forward Club, this is when I told you it was our 14th anniversary of the 24-hour relay. 14 years in a row, we have been doing this work. Right now, we're at 21 years. So this was 7 years ago. And this moment still brings me to this emotional place of like, I'm clear that there was a reason that I left engineering behind to do this work. And so it's not just about this one young man, but he is a big part of it because he is one of the original. He's in that first picture of the Ever Forward Club on the couch at San Lorenzo High School, Portable 8. He's in the room when we had the drop-off pop-up meeting right at the end of the 2020, the year before Ever Forward really took off into full. He came to the first meeting, and I'm clear that he came along for a really amazing reason. I'm still in touch with his brothers. We talk as often as we can in their busy lives, and they're both family men now. But I'll never forget him. And so I originally, when I made this episode, I was going to not talk much about it. I couldn't think about how I was going to say more words about Arturo. But I want you to know that if you are an educator out there, if you are a person out there who you've ever been inspired by a teacher, if a teacher ever helped you beyond what you thought they were required to do, and they're still around, please go find a way to give them a thank you. Send them a message on somewhere and send them a letter, a card, or if they're still around, maybe you could go and just thank them and give them some appreciation for how they were able to support you in the journey of your life. Maybe you can't do that, but maybe you could just send a positive energy toward their way, wherever they may be. You know, I think about how to tell this story with you of a journey of a teacher trying to help a student, trying to be there outside of what the classroom required. Because my job as a teacher was more than just a teacher. Like I didn't come to this work planning to be a teacher. And then you probably could, if I look back and what my plan was when I first became a teacher, I didn't know how long I would do it. I thought I would do it until I was no longer there to do it. I didn't know what the plan was. And being at that school, San Lorenzo High School, that first day, watching that young man find a way to navigate school, navigate the world around, and be a part of a program where the draw of the crowd at lunchtime was big. As I think back to what we were asking the young men to do, we were asking them to give up their lunchtime one day a week, the time that they socialize and hang out and do the things that they do with their peers. I'm asking them to sacrifice that, not just once a week per month. I asked them every Thursday at lunch, I need you to be here. Not just 1 week, not just every other week. Every Thursday at lunch, I need you here. I'm going to buy you lunch. Exchange for lunch. You're going to teach me how to be a better teacher. It's going to be an exchange, but you were making a commitment to being here every week. And guess what? Sometimes students wouldn't show up. the draw of the crowd, especially when these spring days happen in the Bay Area and it's blue sky and the birds are chirping and the other stuff is happening in the quad. Much more entertaining than coming to the Ever Forward meeting. But here's what they knew. They knew that if they missed a meeting, somebody was showing up at their house. They knew that they missed a meeting, like somebody was going to call them. You didn't get to be absent and invisible without being held accountable. Because it was a commitment two-way. It was not just them committing to the club. It was me and us committing to you. And so when one of us don't hold up the end of our commitment, we don't just do it in a back channel. We don't just do it by disappearing. We don't do it by not showing up. And if ever a young man wanted to quit, the expectation was that they would come to the circle. They would stand in front of all the young men and say, you know what? This is not for me anymore. And we would love them respectfully. It was never hard feelings. We had one young man, early days of the work. He wanted to start an engineering club. And so he came to the circle. He said, Branch, I just can't do it no more. I want to start this other club. He had plans. I'm like, okay, well, come in, close out in a good way. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it was like, but I'm clear that what I held them to expectation was that I made a commitment to you that from the time you start, the time you walk across that stage, I will be here with you. And he came. And sometimes they wouldn't want to come. Sometimes I've had students who quit and was like, I ain't going. I'm like, okay, well, I'm still not going to hold a grudge, but I hope when you see me around campus, you don't hold a grudge. And how do you build community? Look, I want you to know that leaving is part of life too. But how do we do it in a good way? I don't take it lightly that a young man who was willing to quit on a group of brotherhood would also quit potentially on their own child that they created and no longer interested in the partner they were with. When does your level of responsibility increase? And so I held them to this idea that if you want to quit, then you can quit. But don't do it in a way that's so ugly and disappear and just walk away. Come and check out with us. Do a checkout. And I've had lots of journeys of that. Why am I talking about that topic so much? Because sometimes we've had it happen. We've had young men in our program who have had their fathers walk out on them and they hold this anger inside. They bottle it up. One young man, for 6 months, every time he did a check-in, I'm a 10, I ain't got nothing to say. I'm a 10, I got nothing to say. Okay, all right. One week in particular, he came back. He was like, I'm a 2, a 3, whatever the number was. And he was like, I hate my father. Now, one young man in the room at the same time, while this young man is talking about hating his father, this young man is grieving the fact that his father has died. And this young man on the other side of the room wants to be mad. And he's like, how dare you talk about your father like that? How dare you? He actually threatened him. He actually said, I'll beat your ass, right? He threatened him, but I obviously am not going to let that happen. I'm like, hold on, slow down. You're upset because you are thinking about your father. This young man is not thinking about your father. He's thinking about his father. So let him speak. It took that young man 6 months to finally stop pretending that he was a 10 and everything was fine. And when he finally did it, the room became tense for him. And it was my job in that space to make room for him to feel everything he felt and help this young man say that your feelings of loving and missing your father are welcome also. But you don't get to project your love for your father on this young man, hate for his. You need to listen. And in that moment, when that young man began to talk about what his father had done, the heartbreak, the abuse, the neglect, that young man over on the other side said, oh man, I'm so sorry, brother. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you had been through all of that. Now, if I wasn't a teacher, an educator who knew what was going on in the moment, and I'm trying to just deal with breaking up a potential fight, I'm going to miss the fact that what's happening in the moment is emotions are at high level. The wave is at its highest peak. This young man is sadness. This young man is anger. And they are talking two different languages to each other. They're talking two different languages to each other, and they're trying to read the language from a place of sadness, and they're reading the place from a place of anger, and those will cause choques, that Paulo Freire says, right? The choke, a crash. And listen, I just want you to know that I don't know what emotions you don't get to show. When that young man for 6 months pretended every week, I knew he was going through stuff. I knew he was dealing with some life challenges, but he never told their circle. In order to make it safe enough for that circle, you have to let him lie for months because it's not my place to tell it. I would encourage him to open up. I would encourage him to share more. He wasn't ready. Some young men, week 1, they're letting it go. Boom, they're taking that, opening their heart up to the whole space, like, let's go. And some young men, for months and months, they come in, they pretend. And listen, as an educator who can see sometimes that there's a mask there, I can't be like, let me take it off for you. My job is to say, hey, you're safe here. I got you. You're not alone. I don't know exactly what that experience is like, but I know what it's like to be hurt, to be worried, to be sad, to be enraged. And that's the work we get to do as educators. There's such a lack of male educators in the United States. And now what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're noticing is that there is a wave coming along to dismantle a system that's already very fragile. It's already very, very fragile. And so we have work to do. Not only the work that Carlos did in his book, as he wrote that book, Finding Your Leadership Soul, he helped me find a deeper part of my leadership soul to be able to talk about these young men in a way where I am understanding that they helped me along the journey. And maybe some of them helped me more than maybe I was able to help them. But that's gave my best for their well-being. You know, there's one of our 24-hour relays. I'll talk about the first one and I'll tell you about another one. So when we started the Ever Forward Club, I was thinking, okay, these young men, we're already meeting every week. We're going to do some fun stuff. Let's do community service. So I started thinking of, let's do a community service. I started talking to some of the young men. It was at the phase of the program that I was kind of doing all of the stuff because I wasn't helping build leadership. I didn't know about that work. I was just trying to make sure that we were having enough fun and activities that they keep coming because it was about building the community. It was about making it fun and exciting. So I said, hey, we're going to do community service. And they were like, man, I'm not cleaning no trash. I'm not cleaning no trash on the side of the freeway. I'm not, like, all the things they thought about community service was what you do when you put on a yellow vest, then you go outside and you put on a hard hat and you on the side of the freeway. Nothing they could imagine about community service could have been fun. And I had a dream that maybe after I taught for 5 years, I would start this program called the 24-hour relay that I participated in college. And I think it was called forward from 5-year plan down the line to it needs to happen right now. How do we help young men serve their community and also enjoy it? And that's how the 24-hour relay was born at San Lorenzo High School. In 2005 was our first one. Now, these young men were going to help plan it. They had to help plan all the logistics. And what we learned early on was that the school was in shock that that would even be an idea that anybody would want to do. When I had to go to the board meeting, they were like, why would kids want to spend the night on a football field? Now, this is not a nice football field. This is a jacked up divots and rabbit holes. I don't even know what kind of animals were cutting holes in that field, but it was not healthy. And the track was dusty. It was some fine dust that, here, I could talk for a day. I'll show you pictures of what that thing looked like. It was a mess. But we were going to do it, at least as we could figure we were going to do it. We had generators. We had to do this. We had to put up fencing up. We had all kind of requirements were asked of us for that first relay. I had to rent fencing for 24 hours. Like, why am I renting $1,000 worth of fencing? That was the requirements. Okay, we do whatever it takes. And that 24-hour relay challenge in 2005 was the first one. And man, those 50 students, not just the young men in Ever Forward, but 50 students from around the school said, I'll do it. I'll do it. And that program began to grow. 21 years later, this is our 21st year. As you know, when the pandemic happened, we couldn't have kids camping out on the football field in tents. We couldn't even really do many live events at all. So we basically had to pivot the whole event. So this year, as I'm naming what you're seeing in the journey of this work, like 21 years later, this year, our 21st community challenge. Now, we didn't stop the community challenges because there was a pandemic. We kept doing the work. Just like teachers kept teaching, even though there was a lot of difference and a lot of change. All I can tell you is that every day teachers are getting up amidst all kinds of odds and barriers and difficulties. And as we see people trying to make the already hard profession of teaching even harder, even more unstable, there'll be teachers who continue to give. So if you're a parent, please show some love to your teachers, to your administrators, to your counselors. Please let them know that you got their back. Because if we don't, when those doors close, when they offer you a check to go check your kid into the local private school that won't take your kid because that check is nowhere near enough, you are going to be wondering, where are all the teachers? Where are all the principals? We need you to step up for them. I'm not a teacher in the classroom anymore, but I'm a teacher forever. I'm asking you to step up for them. I don't know what your community is going to experience when all the things fall apart as they're trying to break them apart, but I'm hoping that you don't take it lightly. So, this was a lot today. I talked about some alumni, talked about education. I talked about me as an educator being inspired by Carlos Moreno in episode 17. Not sure where you are on your journey of teaching, education, passion, purpose, work, but I hope that you find the people who will inspire you to keep going. And if anything, let us know how we can support your journey. If you're interested in being a teacher, we highly encourage, we need you. And education needs you. People who care about it more than just a job, because it's way more than just a job. Listen, the last thing I'll say in this episode of Finding Your Leadership Soul is that whether you decide to be a teacher or an educator or a counselor or a doctor or a lawyer, whatever the profession that you have chosen, my invitation is not to tell you to leave your profession to become a teacher. That's a really hard thing to do. I've done it. But I do ask you to be a person who advocates for educators, who advocates for our schools to be places where students can learn. That's what we need. We need more people who are caring, passionate, believe in the power of education. And I'm one of them. And do this show, and we're going to do our best. And we'll be doing as much as we can to help encourage you to continue being a part of the advocating for school. If you're ready to be a part of what we're doing, this year's 21st Community Challenge is going to be a dance-a-thon. Yep. We went from camping on the football field to this is going to be a 5-hour dance-a-thon. It's going to be a live event happening in Oakland, California, in Jack London Square. You can participate live or you can participate virtually. So you don't even need to come to Oakland. You can just turn on your computer, get your computer ready, get some water and some Gatorade or whatever you need to hydrate yourself for 5 hours, and we're going to dance. So stay tuned for that. We encourage you can go to our website and get more information. But we hope that you will tell somebody about it. We hope that you will be a part of our journey with us in this 21 years of supporting young people, supporting education, and really transforming the lives of people who want life to be better for them. That is this year's 21st annual Community Challenge. We dance. 21 years of doing this work. Thank you for being a part of the journey with us. We'll see you soon. Stay in touch. If you got questions, ideas, thoughts, please reach out to us. Send us an email, and we will look forward to answering them on one of our next shows. Take good care. Be well. And keep finding your leadership soul. We'll see you soon. Bye now.